the only three ways you can make more money, right? Bring in new customers back more often, bring brand new customers in the door, or have your existing customers spend more with you. If they have a good experience, someone spending more doesn't mean you're doing something immoral.
The loyalty loop.
I'm going to use a word that causes people stress in our profession, and the word is upsell. I'm not telling you to do something or to offer something that you do not. I'm saying if there is something that exists that could help this person, give them the option to do that. And I am going very slow because this is important. I'm not telling you that you need to start selling percussion guns if you don't think that that could help this person. Don't do it. I'm saying if there's something out there and you're not suggesting it, I'm going to flip this on them, Brian. You are doing them a disservice by not telling them about it. Brian, first questions are the hardest. We get the hard questions out of the way early. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking a Yuengling Oktoberfest from America's oldest brewery, boy. I love this beer.
Pottsville, Pennsylvania. Is that correct?
Yes.
The pride of Pottsville, Pennsylvania.
Yes, absolutely correct.
Now, I know that because that's where I was a radio broadcaster. So I was, for a decent part of my career, I was in Northeast Pennsylvania. Pottsville was a little south of there, but Yuengling, which I feel like it's America's oldest brewery. You know that because that's their marketing message, selling point, right? I feel like I never heard of them until like 2004. Next thing you know, they were everywhere. Like it was I don't know. I grew up in New York. Once I moved to PA, it was like, oh, it's Yuengling. But I didn't grow up far away from where Yuengling is in Pennsylvania.
Right.
But those guys, the guys and girls that worked at Yuengling used to bring the radio station people because they were advertisers and sponsors of the stations I worked for. They would bring us once a year to the brewery. And the first year I was like, that's cool. And they put on such a show, like they would walk you through and like talk about the history, like it was their own like grandfather who founded it. It was a really great, like, oh, this is brilliant. Like, because by the time you leave, you're like, I'm never drinking another beer because these guys, every time I look at the logo, I think of those guys and the brewers and this and the story, which we talked about in a previous episode. It's like, talk to me. You could tell me how many ounces it is, what your ABV and how many pounds of yeast or what. I don't even know how beer's made. I just know how to drink it. But you could do that, or you tell me a story and now there's an emotional thing. So when I see these 6 beers and I see one of them, the handles is a Yuengling, I'm like, you know what? Pride of Pottsville, Pennsylvania. Give me in PA. Do you know what they call it in Pennsylvania? You don't order a Yuengling at a bar in Pennsylvania. You just call it a lager. I'll take a lager. And everybody just knows.
I was gonna say a lager. Yeah. I moved to Maryland, and that's when I was first introduced to Yuengling was in '93, and I was like, this is great. This is I went to college in Buffalo. I wasn't that far away, but
wait, where'd you go to school?
I never knew. I went to Damon College in Buffalo.
Yeah. Oh, I went to St. Bonaventure. I was an hour due south of Buffalo. So if Buffalo is in the middle of nowhere cold, I'm south of nowhere cold.
Yeah. When you said you went to St. Bonaventure, I said, I know where that is.
Not many people
There's nothing there.
There's nothing there. We had a bunch of fryers, a couple of kegs of beer to keep us warm. And maybe that's why I was so focused when I was there, because in the middle of upstate New York, or depending on where you're from. Where are you from? Are you from New York?
I'm originally from Rochester, New York, outside Rochester suburbs, So I went to college, 60 minutes from my home, but man, it was the best place on earth to go to school because there was nothing to do. It's cold, and even in the spring and summer, it's not great.
But what it did there for me anyway, listen, I had a bunch of buddies go to like big, smart people, Ivy League schools. I wasn't going there.
Right.
I had them go to like big schools of pro football programs. I went where it accepted me and they had a radio station that I could just get on as a freshman. Right. And I remember looking and going to visit them and being like, you guys have like football Saturdays. Bonaventure didn't have a football team. We had a decent basketball team. We'd show up at the NCAA tournament once every 3, 4, 5 years. But the thing that you're talking about, I think a lot of upstate New York schools had, and I'm sure across the country, I just don't know, other geography, because there's nothing around. It was like the people you went to school with, you were tight. It's like, dude, there's nothing to do. We are together. We need to be like tight. And you form those ridiculously stupid bonds with these idiots that I went to school with. I lovingly call them my idiots. I'm an idiot too.
Yeah.
All right. So you're drinking a
Yuengling. I agree. I agree.
What was your college
What are you
beer
drinking?
I'm drinking a Mick Ultra because I'm trying to lose like 15 pounds for being heavy all summer. I drank a lot this summer.
That's funny. I just lost some weight. I've been doing the same thing. So this is a treat.
What was your college beer though? Since you went to school in Buffalo, it had to be something Canadian, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. The Steamboat.
I did a lot of Labatt,
Canadian
Labatt
beer.
Blue, Molson Canadian, like that.
Molson.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. It was like, because you could go across the border and pick up beer whenever you want when you're 18.
Right. My problem was that was true. I was a 17-year-old freshman. I had to use a fake ID, and I would never use a fake ID ever. By the way, I would never do that. In theory, I would have had to use a fake ID in Canada for the first 3/4 of my freshman year, which was laughable. Anyway, I'm drinking diet beer, Mick Ultra. They don't sponsor the show, but if they want to, I will take your ad dollars. All right. That's the first round, brought to you by our friends at Owens Recovery Science, a single source for PTs looking for certification in personalized blood flow restriction rehabilitation training. Find them online at owensrecoveryscience.com. All right. So we've got this new format going on. You were nice enough to have me on your podcast. I still don't know why, but I was on there, and we're doing this format, which I think allows the guest to sort of circle a problem that they have experience in, right? So it's like, put this thing in the middle, look at it, size it up, figure it out, and how to solve it. But I'm not asking the guest to solve the whole damn thing, because I mean, if you could, you'd just go do that, be a billionaire, right? But what we're doing is we're looking for suggestions. Like, here's how I see this problem. And when you hear other people's takes on things, typically it's like, hey, here's two different points of view, and there's a straight line between any 2 points, yada, yada. You're going to take something away with this. So that's the format we're working with today. So today, the prompt is, I guess, how do we solve this income squeeze, or what are different ways to tackle or attack or be better equipped for the income squeeze? How do you you just got back from PPS. How do you describe the income squeeze, right? Because this wasn't a topic of conversation maybe 4 or 5 years ago, but now it's like the prevailing soundtrack at something like PPS. Describe the problem we're going to poke at today.
Yeah, I've been a therapist for 30 years, and I got to tell you, I've been through the budget reform, the balanced budget amendment in 1997 that put like 1,500 home health agencies out of business, and therapists were turning into bartenders and waiting tables because it was just better, the over glutton of services and whatnot. I've been in the times in the early 90s when there was 40,000 chairs needing PTs and not enough PTs to fill it. But I've never been in a time like this, where all crossroads are merging at the same spot at the same time. And obviously, going to PPS, that was like the overarching message there was like, we're in a heck of a hurting at the moment. Inflation's gone up 17% since January 2021.
That's insane.
Isn't that crazy? That's crazy. I mean, just at one point alone, you're like, another group did a analysis on the purchasing power of the dollar. And if you go back to, I got it right here. I got it right here in front of me, a little newspaper. 30 years. You go back 30 years, and the reimbursement rates for physical therapy is at a 30-year low. Inflation's up 17%. The dollar is now worth 59.4 cents of the purchasing power that it was, which was in what they say that went back to the year 2000. Go back to the year 2000.
Brian comes with notes like that.
No, not really. This is just right off of PPS stuff I picked up, and I'm like, I've got to talk about this. This is one thing. It's all at the same time. Everything's hitting at the same time, and I love this format, Jimmy, because none of us did. We didn't script anything. We didn't plan anything. We're just going to talk about it. And for those of you guys listening, this is the pressure point, right? This is the pressure cooker right now. Payroll's high. I mean, you got front desk people. I'm talking to owners on the West Coast and different parts of the country saying, yeah, I can't even hire a front desk person unless I'm offering $25, $26 an hour. I mean, where are we going here?
So I think you saying income, I think squeeze is the right word, because it's coming from two fronts, right? Lowered reimbursement, higher inflation, which means the person looking for a job, which there are a lot of, is demanding more. Yeah. The practice owners in the middle getting squeezed from both ends. It's like, reimbursement is not going up or it's declining. Great. That's money in, and I've got to spend more money on the way out. So I am, in fact, getting squeezed from both sides?
You're getting squeezed from more sides than two. So you made the point that the reimbursement for our services is going down, and that's giving us pressure. The cost of goods and services are going up due to inflation. That's true. But guess what else? You got employees coming in. You got kids coming out of school with $150,000, and they're like, "Look, my problems are your problems." I hate to say it, but my problems are I got these student loan debts. I can't get a mortgage, a 30-year mortgage that's not under 8%. I mean,
insane.
and they're sitting there, I'd love to live here and work here, but I can't even afford to live and work here. You're outside of New York City. You know how expensive things are.
I'm okay
with them too.
See, I liked what you just said, which is my problems are your problems, right? So and I am a new grad still, and technically, even though it's my second career, because I graduated in 2016, right? So I'm sort of like, I'm like with the young. I like want to be young. This is how I stay young too. Yeah. I also use words like dope. Like I say, yeah, that's dope. And
dope. I heard you say that. I'm like, that's cool.
But I like what you just said, which is my problems are your problems. And as an owner, you could be like, that's true. But if that's true, then my problems are also your problems then. Because this is a relationship, but it's two ways, right? That's right. Then you bring your problems, I'll bring my problems. And if we can understand them together, right? So which is why we talked on your show, by the way. Give a quick synopsis of what we're going to put the link in the show notes, but like talk to people about just give them like a quick and dirty on your show.
Yeah. So, our show, Physical Therapy, Private Practice Secrets, the top 10%, Jimmy and I dove into the staffing shortage, and we dove in hard on the beingness of people and owners, because it really starts with you. Right. And we just hit it off and we just rolled from there.
So I like that, because the episode on your show and this, which by the way, we'll share both on both, whatever.
Yeah, back and forth.
It's sort of tackling both sides of not just saying there's only two sides for this issue, but it's taking on two perspectives. I have no problem if a new grad with $150,000 in debt comes out and says, I want to make more. And then Brian's going to nod and be like, yep, your problems are my problems, but that means my problems are your problems. So you need to bring more value than just the ability to bill. Like if you bring a license and ability to bill a CPT code, if that's all you bring, you will get the lowest possible salary, because you're bringing the bare minimum value. If you come in and you're able to yes and, this does not mean, and Jerry Durham, who's been on both of our shows, will say, if the only way to make more money as an employee or an employer is more visits, you got a problem, because that means your value is only in 50 or 8 or 50. It's in time-based increments. And that is not I do not want to be in that business, because
because now you're spending time. Right. Now you're just spending time exchanging time for money, right? You're exchanging time for money.
That is a race to the bottom. Right.
That is totally a race to the bottom, because you're not pricing your valuation in. You're not getting your full value for
Correct.
So, I also want to say, I don't think we should wear other people's conditions. I mean, I know they're coming to us, well, a lot of the owners are dealing with, I'm sitting across from this applicant and they want to take the job, but they're like, my problems are your problems. I have student loans. I have the cost of living. I have but I can't wear your condition. I can't wear your condition. You know what I owe you? You know what I owe you, Jimmy, as a new grad? I don't owe you your student loan payments, although I will have a student tuition reimbursement program, which is all fine. Mechanics. But what I do owe you, when it all comes down to it, is I owe you an opportunity. I owe you an opportunity to do better. I owe you an opportunity to earn more. I owe you an opportunity to have work-life balance with greater flexibility in your position. The better crafted I am, the better grounded I am at providing an environment in which you can seek that opportunity and be benefited from that opportunity, the better our relationship's going to be.
You just took the ceiling off of both of our abilities to earn more and to succeed. If you said, hey, if your problems are my problems, I'll own that. But then the opposite is true. But hey, together, there's no roof, man. If we stay in this model where you show up you give me 8 hours and I give you money, what we decided 8 hours was worth, we will just be in a race to the bottom. All right, so we need to actually get to the thing that we promised the audience that we would do, which is taking a look at the income squeeze. I went first on your show, which means you get to go first on my show. We're going to alternate these suggestions. We'll give the suggestion and we'll go into a little bit of detail, sort of explaining it to the other person and to the audience. So what is your first, fighting the income squeeze? I love that word. I think it's true. What is your first suggestion? What do you got?
Wow, there's so much I could put on. I could put so much on this. But honestly, let me just clarify. Okay, here's where I'm going to start really quick. Number one, I think physical therapists don't bill. Number one, I think we got to stop this idea. I never say a physical therapist bills. Physical therapists never went to billing school. They never got a degree in billing or anything like that. Here's what physical therapists do. They treat a patient. They write a note that represents what they did during their treatment. And then they use codes to codify the note so the insurers know what was done. Whatever's paid is according to the fee schedule and according to the billing department and according to the mechanics. I don't have anything to do with that. I have to give an exchange in abundance with each and every patient. So if you want to fight this income squeeze, let's first stop driving the Yugo, stop driving the Chevette, and let's get into the right car. The right car is the progressive PT practice model, in my opinion, because going all the way back to 1950, which is kind of what you just said in a summary, according to 1950, when this whole healthcare system got put on its feet, it was built on the premise of more patients, more units, more money. More patients, more units, more money. So all of a sudden, the treadmill of financial success is I have to see more people or I have to codify, I have to place more units. There's no patch to that. There's no repairing that system. You've got to step outside that system and let it go. So if you're going to solve the income squeeze, I say you got to go to what's called a progressive PT practice model, which is, this is the biggest one. This is the biggest solution to this problem, which is a hair salon. Look at a hair salon. Back when people used to go to a hair salon 10, 15 years ago, somebody checked you in. Somebody did scheduling. Somebody washed your hair. Somebody then did your hair and blew dry your hair and sent you on your way and sold your products. Now you go to a hair salon, there's one gal. She's in there. She's doing it all. Or one guy. That's it. They do it all. Nobody else. A PT private practice 5 to 7 years from now, I'm going to claim about 80 to 90% of all practices are going to be DPTs, PTAs, and techs. That's it. Everything else is outsourced. Marketing's outsourced. Billing's outsourced. Your virtual front desk is going to be a virtual front desk with a kiosk and a screen and a live stream. You don't need that on your payroll. You got to get rid of that drama, get that down on your payroll. And here's the thing. You're going to get better quality people, higher advanced technology, and you're going to be more efficient because you're only paying for what you use.
You're talking about what is here that doesn't need to be here. How can I find a tool or how could I find a person, right? Jerry Durham's talked about this. Does the person answering your phone need to be in your building? I know how phones work, and the answer is no. So could you have a really rock star person in Colorado answering your phones in Virginia? It's like, if that person is worth it, then the answer is yes. So I think what you're in Georgia right now, right?
Yeah, I'm in Georgia, and if I open up a clinic in my county, Jimmy, my county's got 10,000 people. How many talented people am I going to find to work my front desk out of 10,000 people? Oh my God, I'm only going to hire somebody within 20, 30 minutes of my door. When you do virtual, they could be anywhere in the country, to your point.
I've had organizations that I was considering working with then get to the final stages of like, hey, we want Jimmy to do Jimmy things. We want you to do, creative. You have to be here. And I was like, walk me through that, because your audience that I'm talking to is not in your backyard. So explain to me. Now, I'm not saying I never come there, but what I'm saying to understand culture and to be aligned. I'm not saying I'm not sure, but you have to explain to me why I need to move to the area where you are. That's a you emotion thing. Them exerting control. I think a lot of people hearing this might be like, no, I need to see my front desk. I need to see them. They need to be right there. Then you are shrinking your talent pool, and you will take the best of what's available in your geographic area. And that's not how people decide. That's not how people decide. Not really. Smart people have options. Gen Z has options. They're not lazy. They have options.
And I love the way you say it's the best of what's available to you. It's the best of what's left. You're only hiring the best of what's left because the best of the best is already employed. Correct. They're working somewhere winning.
Everything's a relationship, right? Therapist or business to patient, therapist or business to each other, right? Therapist and the owner. So what you're saying, for some things, you might want someone in the geographic area. There are some things that cannot be outsourced or done remotely, right? But for the thing that could you imagine saying, like, I took the best of what was left? Who'd you marry? The best of whatever was close. It's like, I don't know if that's the best way to talk about your significant other. It doesn't sound good.
Right.
All right.
That's right.
So
that's great.
Progressive model.
Who'd you marry? Who'd you marry?
I like that's a fun prediction. And I like that. And people could be, and here's here's the crazy thing. This is 2003. Someone's going to hear that in 15 years. And I bet you're going to be close. That's my bet. Come look me up. I don't know where I'll be in 15 years. But that's his first suggestion. All right, Brian, my first is, so I alluded to this on your episode. The 3 ways to actually make more money I don't care what business you're in is, bring in new customers who weren't there before, bring your current customers back more often, or have those existing customers find more value and spend more money. So that is the theme of my 3 suggestions today. So the first one is going to be with what I consider, I don't want to call it low-hanging fruit. I want to call it close-hanging fruit. I know it's lower, doesn't mean it's not as valuable, right? So this is when you have a client, could you create something from another business model? I love when we steal things from other organizations or other types of businesses, because that's how things work best. It's been proven. Why don't PT clinics offer some sort of loyalty program? Why don't we reward those types of things? Like, you find value here, but I'm not rewarding that. And you would be rewarded with people who keep continuing to come back with value. We say we're independent autonomous practitioners. We can offer things that have value. I'm not saying sell oil. I'm not saying sell snake oil. I'm saying create a loyalty program that rewards repeat uses of your value with value-added services. So like a loyalty program could incentivize people, I don't even want to call them patients, I'm going to call them people, to return more frequently, to feel better, to not have to be injured to come back, right? We like to say we rehabilitate. Well, I'm a physical therapist. I'm not just into rehabilitation, right? You could bring someone beyond baseline we're talking about. So why isn't that on the table, right? You could do, I don't want to call them discounts, but incentivizations. Like, if you're with me, we work together, we now have a shared common goal to succeed. And that could be done on like a gym membership type of monthly basis, however you wanted to structure it. But it's like, why wouldn't you reward the people that are like the best evangelist for your organization? Don't just ask for a 5-star review. Ask them how else you can help, and reward that loyalty with something that's mutually beneficial. How would this be done? I just gave you a couple different models, but what this does is going to what I suggested on your episode, which is take a look at what you actually bring, what value we actually bring, and ask people who have had a good experience in your organization, in your business, if they'd like more. Would you like seconds? Let me put you on a membership. And a lot of things, you're able to do that in 2023. You're able to track these things. So this would be getting out of the mindset of just when someone walks through the door, it's twice a week for 6 weeks and you leave. Take those people who have already taken a little sip at the fountain and they like it, and figure out how you have a relationship.
Yeah. You know, I think what you're doing is you're lifting the ceiling of understanding as to why we're in business. Why are we here? We're not here to get the person out of the woods and back to their pre-morbid status. We're here to help that person achieve optimum health. Optimum health for me at 55 may be drastically different than optimum health for somebody who's 25. So I always like to give tips for professional success as well. So we gave the concept. That's the idea. An aftercare program, right? I'm not a fan of wellness programs. I don't even know what wellness means, but I like the aftercare idea. So here's a tip. Here's how you can actually do the doingness of what Jimmy and I are saying. Let's say you have a personal fitness trainer that's certified and they're going to do the aftercare program. They're not even a licensed therapist, which is great because you don't have any Medicare issues or anything like that. So they sit in on all discharge visits. They sit in and they say, hey, good. You're discharging, you're wrapping up your physical therapy care. We're now going to take your heart rate, blood pressure, your BMI, and I'm going to offer you your first 1 or 2 sessions for free because we want to take you from this status to a higher point on the tree of health so that you never have to come back again for the same sort of problem. And you can get your packages at a 25, 30% discount or whatever from the raw public because you're already been a PT patient. So that's our loyalty program. We're investing in you and we want you to invest in you. We want to help you invest more in you. We're here to invest in you. We're in business to see other people do well. We're not in business. Look, the pretzel guy is capitalistic, right? He's like, hey, you're $15 for that's how much it is a pretzel, right? Your $15 for this pretzel is more important to me than this pretzel, but to the person buying it, the pretzel is more important than the $15. I'm saying both are important to you, and I'm providing an environment and a service for you.
Loyalty. It's two-way.
Loyalty.
It can help what you just said. I like how you said it. It can help remove that ceiling again, which feels like a theme of the episode. All right, that's my first suggestion.
Yeah, I think people are just too focused on the microcosm of PT goals, achieve goals, discharge.
I'm really sorry, but if you keep doing what you've always done, you will keep getting what you always
Keep getting
got.
what you
And so
got.
we've
I
got
always
this
say that.
squeeze. This is a race to lose. I can see why closed-minded people are very, very down on this profession. I see a lot of the open-minded people. They're not optimistic on Twitter about PT. They're out doing the thing. And they're like, why are you guys spending time bitching? Listen, you can complain. You can say this is frustrating. But if you keep looking for more negative reasons why you're not going to succeed and you're not looking for solutions, I got news for you. You will fail. That's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Jimmy, that is the best gold nugget I've heard in such a long time. What you just said there, no one's ever said, but it's exactly what's happening right now. That's exactly the crossroads we're at. You go to PPS, you have 1,500 people there, and all we're hearing about is everybody, how bad it is, how terrible it is, how this and that, how much heavy lifting we have to do. And the funny thing you just pointed out is because the people who are winning at it, they're not the ones talking.
They're not there.
They're not the ones talking. They're not there. Because they're out there doing it. They're creating that aftercare program. They're creating that 80-20 hybrid, which we'll talk about. They're doing this because the world has shifted and they're not sitting around with a buggy whip. You know, Steve Jobs said it best. If I asked people what they wanted, they would say, you know, a bigger CD that holds more songs. He said, what if I give you a smaller box that holds 1,500 songs? Tell people what they need and want instead of waiting for the survey to tell you.
Correct. All right. So that's my leadoff suggestion. What's your number 2?
My number 2 is diversified. We've got an income squeeze, right? And so part of the income squeeze, a big influence of the income squeeze is decreased reimbursement, right? So reimbursement is decreasing. Look, any insurer that's paying you less than $15 from what your cost per visit is to what you're collecting per visit, if it costs me $55 to deliver a session of therapy and I'm getting reimbursed $60, they're out. They're out. They gotta go. They gotta go. Now people are gonna say, well, Brian, I got this void. I'm gonna cut loose all these low-paying insurers. Yes, you are, but you should have a private practice patient model. Private practice patient model where 20% of the patient care you're delivering is cash-based services, 80% is insurance-based services, because now you can afford to just keep the cream of the crop on your insurance base to fill your 80% coffers, and 20% is your cash-based services, both aftercare programs and internal physical therapy plan of care programs, which could be cash. You have to find a way. My top clients, my best clients are humming at that 80-20 hybrid patient care model.
Was this idea at one point was revolutionary, right? I mean, because everything that's known now at some point didn't exist. The people that were early adopters are cruising on this. Is this still something that people struggle to adopt or to wrap their mind around?
Yeah, it's funny. People get caught in the weeds of so many particular things, so many different kinds of things. Like, how do I do it? How do I set up my schedule for it? And I always say to myself, man, if someone put a gun to your head, you'd figure it out. You keep throwing these things up like there's blocks, they're barriers, they're brick walls. None of these things are brick walls. There's so many people that are just successfully working it. But to your point, they're early adopters, right? People who are coming in now are people that don't look around the corner. They're just focused on the potholes at the headlights. They only operate as far as the headlights will shine. If you're a CEO in a private practice right now, you got to get you really have to get the training to think around the corner, around the bend before you're there. And part of it is, do you have the right patient care model? Is it diversified enough? Do you have, the 80-20 split? And I'll throw one more tip in there, which isn't one of my, I don't want to give away my 3, I don't want to give up one of my 3, but I will throw this in there. I read in Forbes magazine, Fortune 500, Money magazine, all these magazines over the years, that the most wealthy, well-to-do, financially stable people in the country are those that have found a way to have 3 income streams, 3 income verticals. You should find a way within your business model, within your life, to have 3 sources of income. So I'm just going to throw that one in there as a bonus.
Thank you for the radio segue, Brian, to my second suggestion. We did not plan this, but this would be considered a way to have a different vertical. I'm going to twist this by starting with, and we didn't prepare this, right? Shout it out. I'm not putting you on the spot, but there is something that a professional sports organization used to do in private. They used to hide it, right? And now it's a televised multi-day event. So this is like part of marketing or communications. One of the rules is, can you make the visible invisible, or can you make the invisible visible? I think you should steal this tactic. And the organization that did it was the NFL. Now, are you familiar with the NFL Combine?
Yes.
Of course you are, right? So the football fans know exactly what I'm talking about. I think even most of the non-football fans know what I'm talking about, but I'll explain it just in case there's some people who don't. The Combine is essentially, it's a couple days long. It consists of, I think it's like 8 to 12 different events, physical things. There's also a psychological test, a Wonderlic evaluation. You essentially take all these people who are getting set to be drafted, to be draft picks in the NFL, and you go and you put them through a 40-yard dash, 225 bench press for reps, a broad jump, a long jump. Skills players do throwing drills for quarterbacks and receivers and yada, yada. I've heard this phrase before. If you move, you're an athlete, right? We all want to be the star of our own sort of show, right? We're all the main character in our own movie, right? So why don't you pair two of these things? Because one of those things is I sort of want to know where I stack up. When I do a local 10K, I sort of look at the competition. Where did I finish overall? Where did I finish males? Where did I finish males 30 to 45, right? We want to see where we did this. So what I'm suggesting could be done a number of ways, right? It's combine theory, which is, could you do it an overall fitness, right? Combine, come in. Hey, we're a physical therapist. We're great at figuring out how we're movement experts. We keep saying that.
Right.
Great. Right. This is our general athlete. And if you move, you're an athlete. Everybody's an athlete. They're general 8 tests, things that we can pull off in our clinic to do. And can we have a specialized combine, like, for runners or cyclists or volleyball players? And you modify the things that you're doing in testing based on the sport that they're playing. Now you're niching down, which is the thing we know used to not be a great idea, and now is sort of the only way. So you could do this as sort of like a workshop, like a one-day thing. Listen, we're going to find out who it is. You could de-identify the patient data and share it. Or you could let people say, you know what, I'll put my name on that. And then you can see where you stack up. Now you've just created a place where you're like, I'm sort of middle of the pack. I used to think I wasn't middle of the pack, or I'm at the top of the pack. I didn't realize that. I'd like to get better. In both instances, I'm the main character in my own life. I want to be better. What does better mean? I don't know. You tell me. So now you have this workshop where you put people through a combine, just like the NFL does. You can rate and rank. We've just done baseline testing, Brian. Just done baseline testing on some validated outcome measures if you're going to use them. And now you can say, well, Jimmy, you did really well. Look at this report card. People love report cards. People love filling out stupid surveys. I took one the other day. What Friends character are you? I'm Ross, by the way. But people love to see where they fit and where they're strong. We don't love to see where we're weak, but we sure like to see a few weaknesses. And now you can say, well, here's where you're actually very strong. You know, if you worked on these 3 things, you could probably PR your next 10K, right? So now
people often say, Jimmy, that which you care most about, you will measure.
Correct.
Everybody's got a scale. Everybody looks at the. That's right.
So what I'm saying is, if you have a night where you set this up, you're going to have to communicate this. If you wanted it, let's use runners because we're stupid and we're crazy and we'll do anything to get better, right? We'll do anything to lose 15 seconds off our 10K. And you create a night for runners and you're going to do these 8 things. You come. It's a great way to show, not tell, what your organization, what your clinic is about if you're a clinic, right? And if you're a chain of clinics, how great would this be? Because you could do it at multiple locations on multiple nights. And now you have an ability to rank and rate people and figure out, where do I fall? And then, oh, by the way, gosh, how would I get better at these 4 things that I'm subpar at? Have you met Brian? He's our therapist who specializes in running, and he'd be glad to work with you. So
that's brilliant.
Juice versus squeeze. I call it the combine, which is stealing something that works for. And again, the combine used to be not televised. It was not something people really talked about. And now, believe me, you're a real football fan. I'm not. You know the 40 times of the best of the top. Like, they know these statistics. Why? It matters. Make them the running back of their own life.
That's right. That's awesome, man. That is awesome. And that is such a watch thing. I mean, that televised attendance is through the roof. People like to see how people can perform when they're stacked up against one another. People like competition.
It's competition. It's where do I fall? how can I be part of this game? Listen, I got news. I'm never going to the NFL Combine, but if my buddy down the street had this, I'd go check it out and see where I stacked up and then figure out what I need to work on. Then I have a choice. Do I improve with you or on my own? I like those odds because that's a 50-50 shot.
I love it. I love it. You know, and you segued right into my third one. You just teed me up perfectly, man. That's the best.
Go ahead.
Mine is, we talk about competition. How about we only employ those people that want to practice in the top 10% of their license? Okay. We need to create an environment in which you're only going to attract the best and the brightest who are going to perform in the top 10% of their license. So how are we going to measure that? How are we going to rank that, right? Well, we got to go back to what's the purpose and what's the meaning of going to PT school? Because I've asked this question for, Jimmy, I probably asked this question for the last 20 years. I said, what is the reason for becoming PT? Like, why did you become a PT? Like, why did you want to? Because don't tell me to help people, because that's being human, right? I mean, if you're not on this planet to help your neighbor or help your family member, you're just not human. At least in my world, don't talk to me. don't get connected to me, right? I want to be around people that genuinely, intrinsically are interested, because both flows are to benefit those around them. So create an environment inside your practice that does the same thing. And what I mean by that is, let's look at surgeons in the US. I don't think there's a cardiologist, neurologist, or orthopedic surgeon in this country who's not paid or benefiting from a pay-for-performance model. None of those dudes, guys and gals doing those professions, are literally getting a salary and benefits, and it doesn't matter whether they're working or not, they're getting paid. And when they go to Switzerland and they come back from the Alps, there's a good old fat check waiting for them. That is not the story. So go to a pay-for-performance model, not a shared risk model. I'm not a fan of, the more you run on the treadmill or the more units, more money you bring in, the more money you make. Not a fan of that. That's a volume-based system. I'm rooting my pay-for-performance theory and mantra in the purpose of why you became a physical therapist. Because there's only two reasons why you became a physical therapist, as far as I'm concerned. Number one, you want to help as many people in the community as you possibly can. Number two, you want to develop your skills at the highest level so that you're giving the greatest exchange and abundance with each and every session. I feel when I'm treating a patient, I am blessed and I'm grateful for the fact this patient is sitting here before me, because I know I got 12 other clinics within 2 miles of my office. There's 12 other clinics this person could be sitting in front of somebody else, but they're sitting in front of me. So I owe it to them to throw everything at this diagnosis, at this condition, the kitchen sink included, to get them the highest degree of outcomes possible in the shortest period of time. So why shouldn't I be reimbursed? Why shouldn't I be valued based on the purpose of becoming a physical therapist? I get a 80% or so base salary. I get a base benefit package. And then my main compensation comes from my clinical efficiency, my clinical productivity, and my high quality care as measured by a net promoter score. Those are the three reasons why you went to PT school. Help as many people, give as much care as you can per person, and practice in the top 10% of your license as deemed by the patient, as viewed by the patient. Of course, the clinical outcomes are fine, but the patient's experience is what you should be most concerned with. You create an environment, a pay system like that, you are going to retain absolutely the best therapists who want to practice in the top 10% of the license.
With you leading off with practice at the top of their license, got to get a shout out to one of your former recent guests, Michelle Colley, because they coined the term patottle, P-A-T-T-O-T-L.
Yes, she did coin that term, patottle.
So I think this is great for a couple of reasons. One is I now feel like what I do, all those little things for the podcast audience, I'm using the air quotes. I use a lot of air quotes on a podcast, Brian. I'm not sure why I do it. It's a bad idea, but I keep going. It feels as if you're letting me have a hand on the levers that can lift the success of the client, the success of the patient, and my personal success. And people do those things, right? It's like, man, if you gave a really great, Jerry Durham is probably just like losing his mind if he's hearing this, which is like, if you gave a really great experience from front desk to leaving that day to, of course, arrive, pay, and stay, as Jerry will beat his drum. That's, if you can measure that, people would do that all the time. Right. I tell the story of the dead raccoon. Have you ever heard of the dead raccoon? I got to do another.
No, tell me.
So if you Google dead raccoon, you get an image of a bunch of them. Right? The bunch of these images, which is a long road, right? Going off into the country with two yellow lines painted down the middle. And one of two things happen. The guy painting the lines the day he was supposed to paint the lines, had a dead raccoon there, and he either paints over the raccoon and keeps going, or he's, I guess, being smart enough where he gets to the raccoon, goes around the raccoon, and then begins going down the road. And the idea there is the guy's job was to paint the yellow lines. His job wasn't to move the dead raccoon. It's like, well, your job actually was to do a great job. And you didn't do that, because part of it, I'm sorry, I did not put moving dead raccoons in your job description. I didn't know that was going to come up, but I need to find people who are willing to be like, actually, my job is to do the best job possible. But they also, they want to feel by moving the raccoon, am I helping the success of the road, the community, whatever? And if it does, I should be rewarded for that, right? It's hard to track those things, but when you do, like something like Net Promoter Score, which I heard about that when I was in PT school, and I think it was like a new thing that PT was adopting in like 2015, 2016.
Yeah, you're right.
And when you do that, people feel more invested in, hey, if I give instead of just saying, hey, have a great night, Mrs. Smith, you spend that extra 5 minutes and give a really good, we're in a service industry. I know people think we sell products, but we don't. We sell a service.
We don't.
And when you do that, when I feel like I have my finger on a lever and I can lift my personal self and the business and the customer experience, people, I bet more often than not would pull that lever and flex that muscle.
No, I agree. I agree 100%, man. I love the story of the dead raccoon. That says so much.
Gotta move the dead raccoon.
You got to move the dead raccoon. That's such a great story because it's visual and it's actually it has a lot of substance.
You can almost smell that story. And a lot of times stories paint a picture, but you can almost smell that story. All right, so that was your third. My three, I remember I said the 3 ways you can help. The only 3 ways you can make more money, right? Bring in new customers back more often, bring brand new customers in the door, or have your existing customers spend more with you. If they have a good experience, someone spending more doesn't mean you're doing something immoral. I need PTs to get this out of your brain. If you offer more value,
it's a loyalty loop. It's a loyalty loop.
Right? Again, not advocating selling something that you do not think is clinically relevant or needed, right? So this thing is, I'm going to need PTs to let go of something for a minute and just hear me out. I'm going to use a word that causes people stress in our profession, and the word is upsell. I know I'm not telling you to do something or to offer something that you do not I'm looking right at the microphone, in your clinical judgment would benefit the person that you are engaged with. I'm not telling you to do that. I'm saying if there is something that exists that could help this person, give them the option to do that. And I am going very slow because this is important. I am not telling you, and I know the guys from Hyper Ice, I'm not telling you that you need to start selling percussion guns if you don't think that could help this person. Don't do it. Right. Eric from Hyper Ice is losing his mind. Jimmy, why is he saying that? Because I'm also saying, if you think this person would benefit from that, you should give them that option. Yeah. Give them the option. I make suggestions, you make decisions. I'm not telling you to make suggestions you don't believe in. I'm saying if there's something out there and you're not suggesting it, I'm going to flip this on them, Brian. You are doing them a disservice by not telling them about it, right? And people, if they hear something that could help them, that you, who they have trust in, honestly believe that this could help them be a better version of themselves, and you're not offering it, I'd say that's disrespectful. So I would say, this is my third suggestion, is could you upsell treatments or things that you could ethically and with a straight face defend to colleagues and the public why I offered this. You not doing it is doing a disservice to your business and the people you seek to serve. You get to decide what those things are. There are people that do sell snake oil. I got news for you, Brian. They're going to keep selling it because some people buy it. I'm telling you to sell things that you honestly believe in. And by sell, upsell is a bad word. Oh, it's a dirty word in PT. So is sell. I'm telling you to achieve understanding. Explain what you have seen. Be honest about the evidence and what is known. And then be quiet and see if that person would like to try that, because you're someone that you're not selling anything you don't believe in. So don't even open your mouth unless you believe in it. But if you do, and you're not giving them an option, I don't know what to tell you, because you're doing them a disservice. And
and you're raising a bigger point, Jimmy. you can harm people in two ways. I can commit an act against you. I could punch you and give you pain, or I could withhold sharing something with you and you result in pain or dysfunction or discomfort. So, as a therapist, if I know in my heart, I could get you into an aftercare program with the newbie eSTEM, and you could use the master reset on 20-minute applications 3 days a week, and it's going to reduce your stress levels and it's going to improve your mobility. Why am I not offering you this cash-based service for 20-minute sessions over here in our platinum lazy boy room, right? I mean, you got to start thinking outside. Are we not here to help people achieve optimum health? You said it before. We're not here just to get people to reach their goals. We're here to get them to achieve optimum health. It goes beyond physical therapy, plan of care. It goes beyond the POC.
Correct. I understand that when I go to the Ritz-Carlton and I order a vodka soda and I get Grey Goose, it's the same Grey Goose that I could buy for $40 at my boy down the street. I understand that I'm buying something else. And I know it, again, there are people that will ruin this. There are snake oil salesmen. There's a reason that snake oil salesman is a cliche. It's because people have been selling it for eons, right? I'm not telling you to do that. I feel like, especially with PTs, I need to hit them over the head with this. I'm not telling you to do anything you do not 100% believe in. I'm telling you the things you do 100% believe in, offer that. Hard stop.
Yeah.
All right, that's my third
it's kind of like when you buy a car. We all buy a car. We buy the floor mats. It's an upsell. But I'm not going to leave the lot without the car, without the floor mats. I'm going to buy the floor mats. It's an upsell, but I want my car to have high quality floor mats. That's what I'm going to do.
Did you have to get them?
It's funny. No.
But they asked.
That's right.
And you said this is an exchange. I feel like this is a fair exchange or an exchange of abundance. I'm giving this number of dollars, and I understand that what I'm getting feels like I'm getting more.
That's right. I'm going to pay the $90, but for the next 5 years, I'm going to have my feet on good quality floor mats that fit my foot.
I could,
Brian, it's funny. Go ahead.
I could rub my own feet, but it feels better when someone else does it. So that's why I pay him a masseuse. Go ahead. What were you saying?
That is well said. Well said. We talked about, trying to help people with this income squeeze, and it's great because, we didn't prep before this, and everybody listening, it's just the two of us just trying to offer you guys suggestions and food for thought and hopefully tools. Like, I'm a big one on, like, I don't want to just leave you with ideas and concepts and now you got all these problems you got to go figure out. I want to tell you, there are tools that are solutions. A pay for performance model is a tool. Going to an 80-20 split with your focused patient care demographics is a tool. Literally identifying, like Jimmy said, your aftercare programs, additional income verticals. Those are all mechanical structural changes that if you're willing to confront them, you're willing to face what comes with those changes, you're going to be one of those practices that's not at PPS whining and complaining about the doom and gloom of what's around us in society today. You're going to be one of those people sitting there going, I don't have those problems all day. I see what you're talking about, but that's not our experience.
Where should people go to find out more about you? Where's the one place you like to send them in terms of like a website or a resource? Where do you want people going?
Two spots. Number one, I think the website's great. We're very transparent on our website. We have a resource tab. We have all of our pricing and everything we do. We're an education team first and foremost, right? So go to website, www.megbusiness.com. What's beautiful about megbusiness.com and the company that we built, we're in 34 different states. We have employees in 34 different states. We have 115 employees. And we've been doing this since 2006. And my focus is, and my message to my team is, always do what's in the best interest of the individual in front of you, because if in helping them to succeed, we have succeeded along with them, because that is our purpose. And to do that, you got to offer services and educational tools, make people better executives, make people better owners, but also offer them the services of credentialing, billing, virtual front desk, because these are the challenges of today. It is an income squeeze. Lowering that payroll below 50% of the GI coming in per month is a game changer. So go to the website or just email Jen, JENN at megbusiness.com, JENN at megbusiness.com. I'll get on the phone with you. We'll talk for an hour, hour and a half. I will not try to sell you anything. I will try to understand where you're coming from. And then let's talk solutions from there. But I also recommend you listen to this podcast forever, because this is great, Jimmy. This is a great podcast that you're doing.
Are you ready to play 3 questions?
I'm all for it. I'm all in.
3 questions is brought to you by our friends at the Academy of Orthopedic Physical Therapy. Find them online at orthopt.org. They're leaders in orthopedic PT. It's sort of in the name, and they're part of APTA. And they have an industry-leading OCS prep tool, which is called Current Concepts of Orthopedic Physical Therapy, in their 5th edition right now. So if you're thinking about taking that leap and becoming an orthopedic clinical specialist, if you want to advance to that, this is the perfect roadmap. Doesn't matter where you are, where you want to go as an OCS, Current Concepts can help. So find out more at orthopt.org. All right, 3 questions, right? 3 questions at random. Brian Gallagher. Here's the first one. What is the first impression that you want to always give people? When you're thinking, hey, I'm going to something like PPS, what is, in your mind, when I ask this question, what's the first impression? What is your answer? What's the first impression you always want to give people?
I always, without any effort, to be honest with you, because I've kind of adopted this very early on, but I've always been mindful of the idea that this is the most important person in my universe at the moment that I'm speaking with them. Wow, I always want the person to understand and feel that they're the most important person to me at this moment in time. Because if they're taking their time to want to share with me whatever problems, challenges, barriers, or if you listen to my podcast, if you listen to anything I've written and wrote, I don't ever use the word problems. I always say we're just living from one situation to the next. Ooh. So whatever situation they're dealing in, I want to be there. I want to be there. I want to be present. I want to be listening. I want to be eye-to-eye contact. I want them to know that they're the most important living, breathing person to me at that very moment in time.
How do you lose with that mindset? I love that one. Second question on 3 questions. What is one thing you wish you had the money to pay someone to do for you? What's your like, your guilty pleasure? Like, man, I wish I didn't have to do this and I could just, pay someone to do it. What is something that comes to mind?
Oh my gosh.
Mine's long hair.
I'm a big fan of do-it-yourselfer, but yesterday I had to clean out the chicken hen house. I had to clean out that hen house, and man, all right. I got 15 chickens. I got 11 fresh farm eggs every single day. I love my girls. They're high producers, but I am not loving cleaning that hen house every, and I don't have to do it often. It's like only like once a month. But boy, I could give that up. I could pay for that. That's for sure.
It's like, is the juice worth the squeeze? It's like, are the eggs worth the shovel? I don't know. Like that's the question, but that would be fun.
Third think about that, man. 11 to 12 a day. It's a lot.
I don't know if I can I eat a lot of eggs, but I don't know if it's that much. But
I'm giving them away.
We never get to things like this unless I ask weird questions from 3 questions. Third question on 3 questions. Do you like to plan things out in detail, or are you more spontaneous? Where do you fall on the spectrum? Plans, spontaneity? Where do you fall? What's closer?
It's funny. I hate to give you a weird answer on that, but my weird answer on that is I'm a little bit of both. I'm actually a little bit of both. I can't say I'm one or the other. There's certain things in my life I'm very spontaneous about, and I think it's more on the personal level. I'm very spontaneous about my feelings and emotions with others and people. When I feel something about somebody, I'm going to express it. When I feel like doing something with someone, I'm going to do it. I just feel like too many people hold back today. Too many people are reserved. They're not being the real self. They're for fear of, I don't know, self-consciousness or whatever. My kids laugh at me. They're like, Dad, you don't have the gene for awkwardness, do you? I'm like, yeah, no, I don't. I can't remember the last time where I felt like awkward. It's just not there. Like, take it for what it is. My intentions are always good, but when it comes to other things like analytical sort of things, like objective, I'm very much a planner. I very much like a business strat plan, financial plan. I very much gravitate toward performance. But in personal kind of people-to-people thing, I don't think people-to-people life should be planned. I think it should be experienced. I think it should be felt.
I like the fact that as a PT, you're answering that question essentially with "it depends," which is our mantra. So you're like, well, listen, Jimmy, spontaneity or planning, it depends. All right, that's 3 questions brought to you by our friends from the Academy of Orthopedic Physical Therapy. Find them online at orthopt.org. Last thing we do on the show, it's called the parting shot. Academy of Orthopedic PT and MW Therapy. If switching over your EMR is giving you like anxiety and agita. Agita is what they call it in my family. I'm not really sure why, but if it's giving you agita and you're like, I'd like to switch EMRs, but I'm not sure what I want to switch to, give the tires a kick with MW Therapy. They make your switching over their EMR easy. MWtherapy.com. Parting shot, Brian. This is your chance for just like last thing we do, mic drop moment, soapbox statement. So drop it or step up. What do you want to leave with the audience today? What's your parting shot?
My parting shot is going to be a little bit more on the simplistic level. I was reading a book. I try to get through 50 books a year, and I read a section where they define the word of being authentic. And, we all kind of think we know the meaning of the word authentic, right? And the definition I read was being true to oneself at all times. And I said to myself, we could all benefit from being more authentic, like really being true to yourself in how you express yourself, how you explain something, how you share something, how you feel in verbal communication with another, what you stand for, and not being afraid to stand for it. I just really connected with that. I said, we need more authentic behavior, more authentic individualism in today's society and in our world, beyond just physical therapy, beyond just healthcare, just being true to oneself, being true to your core. I find it hard for me as a person to have a difficult time around people who are truly authentic. I very much can pick up on when someone's disingenuine, but when they're authentic and they can believe and share something that's completely contrary to where my position is or my viewpoint, but darn it if I don't ultimately respect that position because it's true to them, which, look, at the end of the day, what's real for you is real for you, and no one should tell you otherwise. That's being authentic. Be true to your core. Be true to yourself, because that's somebody I want to be around.
Brian Gallagher dropping mics at the end of the episode. megbusiness.com. Thanks for helping us take a look at all sides of this, or at least a lot of sides of this income squeeze. And thanks for having me on your podcast. That was fun to be the guest and just sort of like, I don't have to like worry about like, being hosting duties on your show. So make sure we'll put the link in the show notes to go listen to Brian's podcast. Thanks for the time, man.
Yeah. Thank you for having me on yours. I'm very grateful. This was good fun. Most fun I've ever had on a podcast.
Write it down. Put it up. That's a review we're going to share on Twitter. They said the best conversations happen at happy hour. Thanks for coming to ours.
Yeah.
Like what you hear? Tell a friend or leave a review on iTunes or Google Play.
The show today is brought to you by the Brooks Institute of Higher Learning, an innovator in providing advanced post-professional education. The Brooks IHL offers 7 on-site PT residencies, including orthopedics, women's health, geriatrics, pediatrics, sports, and neurology, as well as a neurologic OT fellowship, a competitive OMPT fellowship, and a speech therapy clinical fellowship. Therapists that complete a residency or fellowship through the Brooks IHL will markedly advance their knowledge and skills in a specialty area of practice. Learn more about how a residency or fellowship can help you advance your professional development at brooksihl.org.
Our home on the internet. PTPintcast.com. Created by Build PT. Build PT provides marketing services specifically for private practice PTs. From website development and hosting to providing content marketing solutions for PT clinics across the country. See what Build PT can do for you today at buildpt.com.
The PT Pintcast is a product of PT Pintcast LLC. It is hosted and produced by PT Pintcast CEO Jim McKay and CBO Sky Donovan from Marymount University. We talk PT, drink beer, and record it. This has been another pour from the PT Pintcast. The PT Pintcast is intended for educational purposes only. No clinical decision-making should be based solely on one source. While care is taken to ensure accuracy, factual errors can be present. More on the show at ptpintcast.com.